incredibly ambitious and thinking they were finished by 2 o'clock, but well, credit where it's due. So anyway, my name is Ross Henley and I'm Chairman of the Constitution and Governance Committee. Sat to my immediate left is Councillor Tim Curley, who is the Vice Chairman of this committee. I'd like to welcome everybody who is in the room with us today, back in the Luttrell room, of course, and all of you members who are online joining us, and any members of the public who are joining us also for this very special meeting. A special meeting of Constitution and Governance Committee. We're also joined by fellow committee members, other councillors, key officers are physically present in the council chamber here in the Luttrell, I suppose not in the council chamber, in our councillors' suite here in the Luttrell room in Taunton. Other elected members of the public are there, and officers may physically or remotely join the meeting, speak on specific agenda items, or observe but won't be able to vote if you're online. And the meeting, of course, is being webcast, and therefore other members of the public and partners can observe the meeting remotely, and you're most welcome. The agenda pack is available on ModGov or directly from the council website from the link which has already been sent out to members on the 21st of February. When I invite you to speak, please speak clearly into the microphone and state who you are. We all know who you are as members, but obviously members of the public may not do so. So it's really useful for the members of the public, particularly who are joining on, to see who is speaking. And the meeting has also been audio recorded as well. And finally, as agendas are now viewed electronically, could I kindly request that members and officers refer to page numbers from the published agenda pack, which really helps us all present to find the appropriate information. So item number 1 on the agenda today, I'll move this a bit forward, is apologies for absence and any substitutions. Scott.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Dawn Johnson, and she is substituted by Councillor Henry Hobhouse. And we also have apologies from Councillor Helen Kay, and she is substituted by Councillor Dave Mansell.
Thank you, Scott. And declarations of interest. Members will be invited to declare any interest regarding any matters on the agenda and to specify the nature of that interest. I will highlight to the meeting the standard declarations of panel members in relation to their membership of respective town and parish councils, which are already pre-disclosed on the council's website. Do any other members of this council on this committee have any items or interests which they wish to disclose which has not otherwise been publicised on the council's website? We're moving swiftly forward to item number 3 even. Public question time. We have no submissions for statements or questions. I have discretion to take any later urgent questions in the meeting. I have done so on numerous occasions in the past. But as far as I'm aware, Scott, we have no notification of anybody wishing to make a late representation, have we?
That's right, Chair.
Thank you. Meeting today is the only item of the meeting today is the Local Government Boundary Commission for England, Somerset Council's submission for phase 2, pages 7 to 12 and supplementary page 1. And I'm going to invite Stephen Lake, the head of electoral management, to introduce reports, including the agenda pack, which was circulated to members last week, and supplement 1. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. And can I thank all members, those present and those outside, for their contributions that they've submitted over the past few months and particularly over the last few weeks. I've done my best to incorporate changes and comments from the last meeting, from those which have been submitted in the meantime. It's not possible to achieve all of them because some of them are contradictory, and one member wants one thing and another wants another for the same area. So there's a fair number of major and some minor changes from the report which was previously submitted. Previously we had 3 2-member wards. We now have 9, and we can talk about that later. The Taunton changes have been primarily to keep the existing town council wards as entities. It was raised at the previous meeting that it was being cut up too much, so I tried to keep them as they are, and we can probably, or will probably need to change them at a community governance review at some point in the future, because I think it does need some amendment. But if we as the council do it through the Local Government Boundary Commission, we would lose a lot of control over what was happening within Taunton Town Council area. And the Taunton Town Council will obviously be consulting with us at the time, but not really with the Commission. Other things which we've achieved now are putting Martop back together in one division, Croscombe being with Shepton East, Pilton being with Glastonbury, Wedmore separate from Chinner, and the parishes which were initially allied to Chard and now allied to Ilminster, which was another request. Chairman, I won't speak much more than that. Members have had at least 100 pages to look through. So I'll leave it for them really for questions and amendments, etc.
Thank you, Stephen. Can I, from the chair, thank you and your team who've done way beyond the job requirements on this, and how frustrating it must have been for you to make constant changes and to deal with the deep depression which must have occurred after the last Constitution and Governance Committee when we talked about this down at Dean House some weeks ago, where some members were very unhappy with the original submission put forward by the Working Party. And I take responsibility as chair of that the proposals were not enough to be supported by members across the council. That's where we are, and I think you've done some work. And Tim and I, as vice chairman, we said if we just had a bit more time to pull this forward, we could bring something together which is even better than we had the first time, and I think that's been proved. I think there are a number of little issues here which members were concerned of. Some of these, a lot of these have been ironed out. It's not perfect. It will never be perfect. Whatever we submit, the Boundary Commission may agree to some of it, but they're bound to make some changes which we were unexpected coming out of left field, perhaps. But I think it's a scheme which I think and I hope the committee can support. And I think corporately for Somerset Council not to submit an official Somerset Council submission to the Boundary Commission would be smack of incompetence and a dereliction of the duties of this council. And I think it would look rather peculiar, this council having entered a formal process of a Boundary Commission not to submit its own proposals. Of course, there's opportunities for other political parties, interested parties, parish and town councils, and other members. If members are still not happy with any part of these proposals, they have the opportunity still to comment, even at this late stage, to the Boundary Commission directly. And when the Boundary Commission publish their own proposals later in the summer, there will be a shorter period of public consultation for members and this council to respond to those proposals. But I do strongly, from the chair, urge members to come together and support this submission as the Somerset Council submission to the Boundary Commission for England. I think it'll be absolutely unprecedented for an upper tier local authority like Somerset Council to be invited by the Boundary Commission to bring forward its own proposals, and then even more so to be given unprecedentedly an extra 6 weeks to come forward with proposals for us not to do so. Thank you. Members.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As I look at this purely parochially, not as the whole picture, the new arrangements for Chard, quite frankly, are totally unacceptable. They having put in a 2-member ward instead of the single-member wards, which I don't think was the object of the exercise in the first place. Also, you've now got a 2-member ward is dealing with 3/4 of the town, and which includes all the industry, all the large retail, all the main roads, and the other Chard board as is frankly housing estates and then a village. It's just a bad separation of what is the town's workload. And I certainly can't support this for my future members of whoever they may be at the next election, because it is not right. I'm all right. The other scheme we had, and which I voted for, split the pie, if you like, into 4 sections with 4 members, and the abutting villages were attached to it. Now we have because of representation from elsewhere, I suspect we have villages which and polling areas which are but Chard are now off somewhere else, and it does well. It certainly doesn't work for Chard, and that's who I'm here for. So that's my point, Chairman. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Wells. Stephen, would you like to respond to Councillor Wells' comments regarding Chard?
As Councillor Wells says, it's all in response to representations that we've received. Chard North, as it is here, which is Division 38, Chairman, on page 45 for those who need it, incorporates a tremendous amount of what is currently Chard North and only one part of Chard South. So it's pretty much already what exists now, plus one more polling district, which is Chard Jocelyn.
I mean, seeing that, I mean, obviously Chard North is a division which borders the division Blackdown and Roche, which I represent at the moment. And I'm not decrying what Councillor Wells is saying at all. He's more than entitled to have his opinions, but it does seem, looking at it, very, very similar to the boundaries which are encompassed in the Chard North division at present. You know, parts of the Chard town sweeping up into the Blackdown Hills up towards Buckland St Mary, which is right next to Bishopswood, which I represent at the moment. But that's fine. Councillor Hobhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't quite understand how anybody's going to be able to be non-parochial on this particular discussion, unless they've done a lot of homework elsewhere. I can live with the Castle Cary division. Now you have added Lidford on the Foss to it, because I had originally, when you put it together, two separate, completely separate parts to the division and no connection between the two. I'm not happy because Kenton Mandeville has absolutely nothing to do with Castle Cary, and really looks to Somerton for its shopping and stuff. But I understand that people are going to have to compromise, and that's the way they're going to do. The actual Bruton ward has now got some very major problems, in that it has villages which know absolutely nothing about Bruton at all, like North Cadbury and others around that area, which look to Castle Cary and are now completely separated. The other thing that's happened is that the River Cam, which is in the Cary division at the moment, is now separated into 4 different divisions, and it's going to be extremely difficult for the divisional members to be able to deal with the flooding. Thank you.
So Hobhouse. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman, and apologies for eating my lunch on camera. That's because I actually did shadow exec, so there was a bit of a rush, and I was starting to feel slightly lightheaded, but what's new? In terms of this, I suspect I might have sort of caused a little bit of a change in my submission. The only option I submitted, a couple of options, because it was not acceptable for Ilminster parishes to be lumped in with urban Chard Town Council wards. And in fact, I did have feedback to that effect from from some of my parishes, not all. They either didn't engage or they got back to you. One of the options was to build on the 2 Ilminster polling districts, which gave you a north and a south. So we've just about got there. One of the issues, I think, with my division is that there are a lot of very tiny parishes. So actually find yourself with an awful lot of tiny parishes just to make one division. So that's why it is where it is. It's not perfect. It isn't going to be. Wincham would prefer, and Cricket St Thomas, and those 2 must be kept together, because Wincham is about the only conduit to Cricket St Thomas parish meeting, which hasn't met for years. Was that they would have felt better going with Chard. Chard South, which encompasses Tatworth and Fulton. However, there are also residents that will tell you that they've got more of an affinity to Crookhern. So to be honest, whatever you do, you're never going to win it. But I think what I am pleased about, and this has achieved it, is to make sure that the Ilminster parishes that do look to Ilminster for their services, their recreation and their cultural and social needs, that they are aligned with the town that they identify with closest. Thank you. So I would be supporting these proposals, imperfect as they are, because as you yourself have pointed out, Chairman, to not agree a second time is not a good look.
I was just trying to admit John Hunt into the meeting. I do apologise. John's with us now, and thank you very much, Councillor Osborne. And just looking at the Ilminster division, you are far more knowledge about Ilminster than I am. But I was down that way at the weekend, and I drove on the. I don't like the Ilminster bypass. I drove on the old road from South Petherton for Ilminster, and you go past the Sevington villages, well, one of the Sevington. And looking at that, I know from a fact from helping out in a by-election a number of years ago, that was in the South Petherton division. That seems to me the Sevington seemed to fit more community-wise with Ilminster than South Petherton, but just an aside.
Briefly, yes, it does. And I know on planning matters that Sevington, which is now one parish, it's one parish, not two separate ones, Michael and Mary. They work very closely on planning matters, especially anything that affects the border between both Kingstone and Sevington St Mary. And yes, I think some of them again do look towards Ilminster. So it does make a fit as such, although I've not listed it on those.
Going to go online. Joining us, Jason Baker from Chard. Hi, Jason.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to comment, and again, being quite parochial, around the two Chard divisions of Chard North and Chard South, and it just feels like once again Chard's been completely ignored. We're on the outskirts, and we'll dump with them what's left. I mean, we've got the Chard South ward, which is pretty similar to what it is now, all bar one town council ward being removed, so it's actually smaller than it was. But to put everything else in one 2-member ward is just, you know, completely unacceptable. It would be very easy to split that into two and have 3 single-member wards, and I don't think we've been listened to at all, because we put several various options in which were acceptable to both Ilminster and us, and it just feels a bit like we're a bit further down the list and out the way, so we'll lump that together, job done. And I'm really disappointed with this, and if I was in the room would be voting against it.
And Stephen, do you want to respond to Councillor Baker's comments?
Only to give the answer that I gave before, really, Chairman, that as I look at it, Chard North has been pretty much kept together, and Chard South is only made up of Chard South, apart from the one South ward which has switched across. So I don't know what else to say.
Stephen, okay.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, can I just come back on that? I don't believe that's correct. There's 2,000 odd people been moved from Chard South into this 2-member ward, so it isn't quite fair to say that comment. And just looking, you know, as a basic thing on the polling stations that are there in Chard North, it would be extremely simple. You know, I've just done it quickly in 2 different versions to split that into 2 single-member wards that would work for everyone. So I don't believe that it's as simple as it's just been said by the officer.
Jason. Also online, John Hunt. John, you're in the meeting obviously now. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was already in the meeting. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but technical stuff at me
John
doesn't
Hunt.
work. Sorry?
I would never not accept you, John.
Of course not, Mr. Chairman. Just a point, actually. We were promised some maps over the weekend, and I know one of the staff was working, Ali, I think her name was working very hard to get them to us. But each time they were tried to come through, they couldn't come through. So I wonder where we were on that.
Stephen, maps. Or Stephen, or
As far as I'm aware, that they're available, because we've had complaints that 1 or 2 of the names are wrong.
yeah, I had read some chatter over the weekend. I was away, but the people
We're definitely not here.
people were pouring over maps. Certainly, this is late Friday afternoon.
From Friday afternoon, they were made available.
But if you, I won't argue with you about it, but if you look at all the emails over the weekend from Ali, several of us couldn't access them, and each time we received access codes, as our council email address came up saying you can't have access to this. So they definitely.
That's unfortunate, John, but it seems like a bit of an IT issue, isn't it? Because I know there are lots of members who were able to access that information on Friday. Mandy Chilcott at the back. Sorry, I couldn't really see because in the sun in the way.
Just to say, I could not access the maps every time I tried to get in. There was toing and froing over the weekend, and it wasn't until Sunday evening that I could actually get access to them. Just to concur.
I've seen them now. Do we take this opportunity to make any other comments at all, Mandy, or do you want to come back later in the debate?
Come back later if I may.
Like, sorry, Ros, you've been there on screen for a while. How are you? We're welcome. Mute, Ros. You're still on mute, Ros.
Good afternoon and thank you, and good afternoon, Stephen. I do recognise this is a huge effort you've put in. I'm going to try not to be too parochial, but for one or two reasons. One is I've actually, over the many years, fought elections right across the Mendip patch, and therefore I'm probably looking at the bigger picture rather than necessarily Mendip West, which I currently represent. Three things. One is when I saw the latest this week, the latest edition, I noticed that some of your tweaking has had inadvertent alterations to other areas. And I think I was looking at it first and I thought somebody's got east and west, they Cuthbert South mixed up. Because when I look at Draycott, which is virtually all the way to Cheddar, and the communities along the A371, to actually then plonk St Cuthbert's Out, which is way the other side of Wells, into that ward, seems somewhat, and I thought perhaps you meant to put in St Cuthbert's West into that ward. The second comment is that looking at the Mendip West, the new ward of Mendip West, you have Wookie in there. And I actually think if you wanted to do anything and you wanted to swap out Mendip East, then it could either be Mendip West or even better, Wookie. And then you would have a group of communities which over the years have been in a single district ward in the past, and are very much aligned in terms of an awful lot of activity. And then the other thing is that I'm not sure that it's going to go down very well, but the Area 5 called St Cuthbert's Out, 40% of the community in the existing one you're proposing are not in St Cuthbert's Out. And given the history around St Cuthbert's Out, I would have thought that it really would go down like a lead balloon. And just to give you some assurance, I've spoken with my partner, Heather Shearer, and she's more than happy to support the proposal that we actually move St Cuthbert's Out into what you're now calling Mendip West, because it is a very fragmented ward all the way from Walton through to Dinder Dalcott and should be East Horrington, and make sure that at least the so-called St Cuthbert's Out, which we must get a better name for, actually has Wookie in there, or if not, then St Cuthbert's West. But I'll be interested to hear your views on that.
I'm going to suggest to Stephen just to comment on that. I think we're at this late stage. I think submissions have to be in the boundary. Is it tomorrow? So I think it would be, I would like to make a suggestion that I think it would not be in the committee's best interest to sort of try at this very, very late stage to make potential changes to the council-wide submission. But there's still an opportunity for individual members and interested parties to make very valid suggestions to the Boundary Commission even at this late stage. I'd like us to focus on the committee whether we wish to support the report in its entirety or not, if possible. But Stephen, do you want to comment on the potential changes and why that's the fallen the way it has in the Mendips.
I struggled because I didn't have that particular part in front of me at the time, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, we're quite happy to change the name of Division 5. It's not a problem at all. I can do it in a minute or so. I was looking at the existing divisions in Mendip West is Mendip West, which seemed to make sense to me. And the only other change was St Cuthbert out east in Division 5. It is the only one which isn't in Mendip West across those two.
Yeah.
So that's, and they are contiguous in each case.
Stephen, sorry to interrupt. If you're actually looking at the numbers of Wookey and Mendip, St Cuthbert's East, EAW, and St Cuthbert's West, they're all much of a muchness, so you're not going to affect your numbers very much. And by moving St Cuthbert East into the other division, the new St Mendip West, means that the name you've called for Division 5, which is St Cuthbert's Out, would actually still balance, and it still would be very contiguous. It is socially and economically makes a hell of a lot of sense. And I really do think that this has changed since, and I didn't have an opportunity until this came out to make this comment about St Cuthbert's East. So yes, I will put in a submission, and it's been sitting, West and Wookey have been sitting to the west of Wales throughout all this period. And so this late change is why, I'm sorry, Ross, I'm now raising this issue. You know, the name we can alter, it's another day, but to call a division St Cuthbert's Out, where 40% of the population don't actually in St Cuthbert's Out, and given the potential boundary ambitions of others on St Cuthbert's Out, I think it's a little bit foolhardy.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to criticize you at all, Rod. So your interventions are timely and always important. So please don't think I was criticising you by any means. So I wasn't. But just looking at, we've got a hand raised. Stephen, do you want to quickly come back? And
Chairman, there's probably enough time this, as long as I can check it through, to change it before 5 o'clock tonight.
Right, how would that fit though in this, in terms of us this meeting trying to get a council-wide submission through?
Well, once I've looked at it, I mean, if you agree in principle to that change, then I can make it. But I mean, obviously, I just need to make sure it does work. But subject to it working, then.
Okay, I did want to try and avoid this at this meeting because it could get extremely messy. And but if you're telling me, Stephen, that you can do this, and it's not going to make any consequential changes to any other divisions, and members are relatively content or happy with that, I'm happy for that to happen. How do members feel about this? It's a local issue, which Councillor Wyke has got a particular interest and local knowledge on. If we are assured by Stephen that there are no consequential issues for other divisions, are we happy to allow that to happen, be embraced? Andy.
Thank you. I think it's a bit challenging because you might have another 20 people lined up online and you end up in the same space that you're in the last meeting. Just as a suggestion, and it was suggested in the last meeting, you could submit as is and then just add a side paper with some comments that have been raised. And I just put that as a suggestion because I think that was in the last meeting.
That's really helpful, Mandy. I appreciate that. And that did come up before. And thank you for that reminder of that. That's the way I think I wish to proceed if possible. And I think you're right. It could, Roz has brought this forward with the very best intentions. And there was an opportunity for us to put a rider on that. There's some comments from Councillor Wyke, one of the local members. But as you quite say, it would get incredibly messy if we were to do this 15, 20 times over other divisions over the course of the afternoon. So I would suggest that as a way forward. Can we do that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. clearly I was perfectly happy with the previous version that we were discussing a few weeks ago. Amendments have been made. There seems to be more comfort generally across members of this authority. I have to say, I think that as it now is, I regret the increasing number of 2-member wards, because I think that does not run in accordance with what, as a council, we agreed to do, which was to work for single-member wards. However, we are where we are, and I think that I would like to say, let's go with what we've got, and thank all of the members that have worked very hard trying to come up with this redefinition. I've got one slight concern about a name, which is that for the seat number 65, which at the moment is just called Stegursey, and I hesitate to step on Councillor Davis's toes, but it covers so much that is not Stegursey, that I think we ought to seriously consider it reverting to the name which most of it traditionally had, which is Quantock Vale, which I think is a better name for that wide expanse. But Mr. Chairman, subject to that amendment, I'm actually happy to propose that we progress with this now, taking your point about the side letter for anything that comes up during the course of the rest of the debate and what Councillor Wyke has suggested already. But as you say, I think it's a safer route to adopt what we've got and have the side letter and get this in now so that it's in good time and with, broadly speaking, the agreement of this authority, knowing that this is not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end, but it might be the end of the beginning. There is still quite a way to go. There will be many opportunities for us and our parishes and towns to make further comment. I think we will take those opportunities, but we've got to start somewhere, and therefore I'm happy to, with some reservations, to go forward with the document as it is today, and I will propose that.
Thank you, Stephen, for your very pragmatic attitude as always and sensible. Members, are we quite happy to suggest, I've got it, thanks, yeah. We're quite happy to suggest the change of Division 65, change the name from Stegursey to Quantock Vale? No, Hugh's not, okay. Hugh, do you want to come forward a second on this specific issue here? You'll have an opportunity to speak about the rest of the report later on, but do you want to talk just on this one?
Bearing in mind, Chair, that Stegursey are the major parish in that area. They're very diligent in what they do. They're a very powerful organisation, I can tell you, and they do a very, very good job. I don't think changing the name is going to help. I think we ought to respect Stegursey for what they are, a leader in that neck of the woods. Very close, of course, to the border of Bridgewater, and we must keep our area where it is. And changing the title shouldn't be. Stegursey is the name for the area. Bearing in mind, it's very barren, so it might be a big area, but it's very barren. It's like changing the name of Exmoor. And just putting individual names in there to make somebody look different in a particular site. So please do not change it.
Hey, Stephen, do you want to come back up?
Well, in the spirit of Great British Compromise, Mr. Chairman, seeing as that's floating over all of us this afternoon, I don't know whether Monk Silver and Stegumber and Santford Brett and Bicknoller would necessarily regard themselves as being part of the empty quarter, Councillor Davis, but as a compromise, Stegursey and Quantock Vale, because at least I think then that addresses some of the concerns that you've raised.
That would seem the most sensible suggestion, wouldn't it? Thank you, good. I love a bit of a working together there. Bill, do you want to come forward?
I was going to suggest Stegursey and Stigumber as a different way forwards, because Stigumber's at the opposite end and is the second biggest parish in that patch. If that helps, I don't wish to prolong the debate. And as
With Skersey and Quantock Vale? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, can we just check on the name of the bishops, Lydia and Quantock one?
What number division is that? Quantocks and Bishops Lydiard, number 67.
Okay,
No, not 67. That's Milverton, Upper Tone.
just very aware that the Quantocks are probably split into 3 or 4 divisions.
No, 67 is Milverton and Upper Tone.
Okay.
'73 Quantocks and Bishops Lydiard. Yeah, I mean, it's separate. I mean, yeah. Are we happy with Quantocks and Bishops Lydiard? Bearing in mind we're going to have another one called Stegursey and Quantock Vale. Yeah. Sounds separate, isn't it? You know. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And with the okay, thank you. Very, very patiently. We've got Helen Kay and then Adam Boyden.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and I'm sorry I can't be there. I've come down with a cold as well on top of everything else. I just wanted to check a procedural thing, which my colleague, Councillor Mansell, at the weekend thinks, but I want it to be minuted, please, that the maps that I was able to see are not part of the submission that we will be making tomorrow, because the maps have got different divisions in Frome wrongly labelled. And I've sent an email to Steve and Chair and Vice Chair and just a couple of others about that. But Dave says that I needn't worry because it's only Appendix A and that's going to be submitted. Can that be confirmed and minuted, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just getting nods, helpful nods from Scott and from Steve Lake on that one. So if we can accommodate that, Helen, more than welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then the maps will presumably, Steve knows what I'm going on about, so he can presumably change them. Thank you.
Adam Boyden.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I don't know if you can see me. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd just like to, there's a couple of things. I'd like, is it possible to request a couple of name changes in the submission? The ward that's known as North East Somerset, I think, could be confused with a previous parliamentary constituency and also part of Bath and North East Somerset. And I think it would be a good idea if it was changed to Mendip North East, because it was previously that area. And also the ward known as Frome West, now is proposed to extend to the northeast of Frome to cover Berkeley and Beckington parishes. So I think it should be called Frome West and Beckington, or Frome West, Berkeley and Beckington, to reflect those inclusions, because otherwise you'll have 4 or 5 years of people saying, why are we in Frome West? We're not, we're northeast. So it would just cause confusion. So I think some sort of concession, please, to the rural areas northeast of Frome. And also, I'm not going to ask you to change anything because I think we've had enough of that. But also, I just to let you know, I have put my own submission in when we had a deadline previously, and when we had a deadline, this committee didn't agree. I put my own submission in, which involved 2 options. One, where Berkeley Parish is not in Frome West; it would be in Frome North, but that means that Beckington would be in what you call North East Somerset, but also that Nunney and Whatley would also be in Frome West. So not everybody would want to agree with that, but I've made my own submission already. And another submission I made was an alternative to that, which would be to retain 2 member wards for Frome, 3 of them, Frome North, West and East, which would expand the current borders to include the rural parishes around, so that the current 6 wards in and around Frome would be accommodated in 3 2-member wards. But I'm not asking you to agree to that because a lot of people don't want 2-member wards. I would be happy with it. But there we go. So thank you. If you could just think about the name changes, that'd be great.
Are we happy to accommodate Councillor Boyden's suggestions of the name changes, and also note that he has made his own submissions regarding multi-member divisions and the boundaries of some of the Frome divisions as well. So I think the thing we need to pick up today is we're happy to accommodate Councillor Boyden's suggestions on name changes.
Specify
Could you-
again,
could you specify
which
specifically
division names he
which
wants to
division
change,
names,
so we can all follow.
Adam,
It
and
was
what you want to change them to.
what you're calling North East Somerset. I'm suggesting is called Mendip North East, and what you're calling Frome West, I should think should be Frome West and Beckington at least.
Time, what number, Adam?
Oh, got me there.
Division 7.
It might be 77.
85, Frome West.
Sorry.
7 is North East Somerset.
Yes, I'm
Okay,
saying.
let's do them one at a time, members. 7 is North East Somerset. And you wish to change that to what, Adam?
Mendip North East.
Mendip North East. Are members content with that? And your second one you wanted to query?
Frome West, 85.
79, I think, isn't it?
79 or 85.
Let's get to the right page. It's already called Frome West and Beckington.
Oh, okay. I'll leave it at that. That's fine. Thank you.
We're good on that, Ben and Adam?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Excellent.
I'd like to agree with all of the proposed name changes that have been put forward. There's one name change that we haven't addressed, which is the suggestion made by Councillor Wyke earlier. I don't know if Councillor Wyke has a better suggestion. I've been trying to formulate one. The best one I've come up with so far is Mendip Northwest, but I'm happy to listen to any suggestions that Councillor Wyke has on that.
I would suggest if we go with the Ward 5 without the AW, which is St Cuthbert's East, but instead replace it with Wookey, then you could quite legitimately call it Mendip Slopes. You've got Mendip Hills and then you have Mendip Slopes.
Left field a bit. How do you think of Mendip Slopes?
I just came up with that now, but I'm quite happy to have something different. I'm
happy to defer to Councillor White. The issue is that at the moment we're not putting Wookey in that ward. That may be something that comes forward later, but I think Mendip North West is probably the clearest at the moment, and it's definitely better than St Cuthbert Out for this ward.
Let's go. What we're going to submit. Let's go with Mendip Northwest, and then if the Boundary Commission decide to accommodate the wishes of Councillor White, then we can revisit that. We get the second bite of the cherry in the summer.
Out of fairness, Ross, out of fairness, this very late change, and I'll put my hand up to it, is only there because Stevens had to tweak Croscombe and Pilton and others, because the last version did not have this arrangement. And that is the only reason I have this very late day made this single suggestion of swapping two almost identical electorates on this one. And my apologies, I know it's late in the day, but I don't know how many other people want to change things, but this is only there because of the late tweaks from your last proposal.
Who wants to come back?
I don't want to open a can of worms. It looks like no one else has got their hand up. Personally, as a divisional member adjacent to Councillor Wyke's division, I think her proposal makes sense and I'd be happy to accept it on the proviso that it's not about to open a massive can of worms with everyone else trying to move stuff around. But if it's not, I don't see why we shouldn't accommodate it.
Okay, I'm quite happy to go with that, yeah. Councillor Fothergill.
I would come back with a different view. I think it's about to open a can of worms. If we can make changes at this stage, I think we just need to have made that clear to all members so that members can make
the names, aren't we? We're not changing the boundaries, are we? The composition, just the names.
I thought Ros was suggesting that we changed certain communities between
Yeah,
divisions.
she did, but then I think we decided that we were going to accommodate what Ros wanted to say on the name, but we were not going to make any changes to the actual composition of the divisions because there'd be an opportunity to put a comment from Ros attached to the report.
I'm fine to make the changes to the names, but I think if we start changing divisions at this stage after further conversations, I think that opens a can of worms.
Can of worms, thank you. Change of the boundaries. Division 69, Wellington East, which encompasses potentially West Buckland, 901 voters. I would propose that would be called Wellington East and West Buckland. Any deferring to that? Anybody unhappy with that? Thank you.
With the changes that have been made and the changes that haven't been made, I'm happy to second the recommendation as proposed by Councillor Pugsley.
Proposal by Councillor Pugsley, seconded by Kafeo Philip. Bill, do you where are these names going? Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay, right. Let's Rodney Stoke and Horrington. What do members think of this?
Councillor White appears to be in hysterics, so I'm not quite sure whether that's a good suggestion or not. But I was looking at trying to look at the two biggest communities within that patch, rather than because St Cuthbert's Out is obviously, as we know, a unique parish in that it's donut shaped around Wells. And I was trying to find. I was thinking of places I played cricket, to be frank, and thought that was possibly reflected the two biggest communities on either side of the.
I hope to differ from the leader, but all the other divisions in that area are all Mendip something, aren't they? So it was, I know you've been helpful. What do we think, Ros?
I would have thought that the Horrington is so out on a limb on this that I'm not sure I would support it. I think Theo's concept of Mendip Northwest is probably as good as any at this stage. But I really do think we are making a unfortunate error here. I think it's because it was east and west, and I think initially it should have been St Cuthbert West because everything else is west. But you've got St Cuthbert's East in there, which doesn't make any sense at all because St Cuthbert's is, as Bill said, a very unique parish and one which is very fragmented in itself and so far removed, probably 6-7 miles from 10 miles maybe from Rodney.
Members, we've had a quite interesting debate about this. I'm learning something on a part of the county which is right the other side of the county to me. Can we go amend it northwest? Thank you. Mandy.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the report. For me, I just would really like it noted and in the minutes how very, very late this is. As at Saturday, I couldn't access. I was actually away for the weekend. I literally at 11:30 last night got a glimpse at it. I just think this wasn't enough time for many to have looked at it. And my fear is a lot of councillors will not have had sight of it at all. And I just think if you make the decision, make it. But I think it needs to be in full knowledge that many will not have had the opportunity to look at it. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Bill Evans.
Yeah, I take on board the comments from the leader of the opposition, and you know, it's unfortunate that we are in this situation, but we have reached a point where we need to put a submission in by end of play tomorrow, I believe. We have a submission that I think is acceptable to the committee. Yes, not all members may have seen it, but it's been an ongoing dialogue for some considerable time. Members are perfectly welcome to put in additional submissions to the Local Government Boundary Commission for England. We're at phase 2 of a 3-phase process of this consultation, as Councillor Pugsley's very wisely pointed out. So I would suggest that it would be the easiest way forwards is for this to go in as written, for members to put in their own views if they are not content with what's here, so that the LGPCE has some guidance to work from with that local knowledge, so that when they come through with their proposals for the start of the phase 3 consultation, that all of the work that's gone into this from many members and from officers is taken into account. And while I appreciate that it's at the end of a difficult journey, we do have to recognise that that journey has been long, and members have had many opportunities to contribute to it.
Wise comments, Bill. Martin Wales.
Can I just add to, we've heard from Jason Baker, and you've heard from me. Can I just add that the other two members of CHARD are also are of the same view and oppose this ban. I'm very happy to say that's it's a non-political view, as we're a mixed bag from CHARD. So I'd like that to be minuted, that all 4 members are opposed to this. And also I'd like to say it is difficult. CHARD is difficult. Well, it's always difficult, but CHARD is difficult in as much as you have a county boundary on one side of it, two sides of it. Devon and Dorset are surrounding half of the CHARD area we're talking about. So it's not easy to tack on bits from all around, because of course you haven't got any space to go into area, and that's why there's been the difficulty with Ilminster and to some degree Crokern. But I'd just like to make the point that we are all agreed that this isn't the answer for CHARD, as I've said before. But as the leader of the council has just said, we are in a position, all 4 of us, to put in a further submission should we want to. So I will leave it at that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. And echoing what you just said there, Martin, individual political groups and or councillors or other representations are welcome from interested parties, or members of the public can make their own individual submissions before the deadline late tomorrow afternoon. Henry Hophouse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm coming off the parochial, partially. Castle Carey has already had 1,000 new houses built in the last 2 or 3 years. The numbers that are shown for now, which are based on the 21 figures, are completely and utterly wrong. And this decision that we're taking today will, and I don't think I'm the only area with this problem, I believe there are equally problems in Yeovil and other areas where the numbers are completely wrong, will mean that we're going to have another boundary commission run after this election to take account of the new numbers. I know there's nothing we can do, Mr. Chairman, and I know the Boundary Commission have laid down what their recommendations are for this particular area, but I just wanted to highlight it in this discussion that what they've said is going to mean that we need an immediate Boundary Commission for the next election after the 27th.
And that may or may not come to pass, and we know that there are areas across the county where it was felt quite strongly by members that the Boundary Commission were not encompassing some of the proposed changes in population changes and development, which we are aware of. And it did make me laugh, Henry, as well. You said you were coming off the parochial and immediately started waxing lyrical about Castle Carey, but it was welcome, though. I know. Yeah. But thank you for taking my comment. The comment. Mandy, I think we're going to move to the recommendation.
Just before you take the vote, you've had a couple of areas, CHARD being one and one that Ros raised. Can I just check that both of those will be included in that little letter? Because I think that's the only areas we've had raised in the meeting, just for clarity moving forward.
We're more than welcome for Councillor Whale and other members from CHARD to put something together to send in to Stephen, which will be encompassed within the report as a rider.
Thank you.
Bill. Jason, then Bill.
Thank you, Ross. I think you just kind of answered my question. I was just going to ask if there's going to be a side letter, whether the 4 members over here, as all of us, are equally unhappy with the submission that's going in, if and when we need to get that to you, so that can be included in that side letter.
More than happy for that to encompass, but it needs to be done like today, doesn't it? Yeah, something needs to be drafted today. It doesn't have to be long, but if you encompass, in a few paragraphs between you, what you're saying, then we're more than happy to submit it with the rest of the report. Bill.
Thank you very much. Just draw to the attention of the map of the entire of the county. I've just noticed, I think I may have emailed somebody at the weekend that the division of Coker is not included in Somerset. And then just to confirm, there are no plans to sell it to Dorset or anything like that.
'51st state of Dorset. Yeah. Okay, members. Tim, and then we're going to move to the vote.
Thank you, Chair. It's been quite a journey, isn't it? I'm really pleased. I think that we've got a vastly improved scheme. It isn't perfect, and I think compromise has been the name of the game here. I think the point that I want to make here is that the Boundary Commission have no local knowledge. Yeah, so they're literally just doing it off the paper. The more submissions that we can put in, the more information we are giving the Boundary Commission to be able to distill and come up with something that does hit some of these the local concerns. So even if you didn't support this, I would suggest that you probably still go for it and you put your own rider in on top. I just think the more information that we have going into the Commission, the better the result will be. So I'm more than happy to be supporting this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for your support throughout the whole process. Alan.
Thank you, Chair. Just in discussion really around the management of the side letter, I just want to be clear, or we need to be clear as officers, how we're empowered to do that on your behalf. So we just need to be clear, the matters that we've heard today would be incorporated. We would need submissions from members by no later than ideally tonight, so by about 5 or 6 o'clock tonight, because we'll need to complete that ready for submission tomorrow. But I just need to check, Chair, you'll need a Scott has advised I'll need an amendment and a proposal and a seconder to delegate authority to me to be able to compile that letter and send it on your behalf along with the submission.
Seems an eminently sensible suggestion. Councillor Curley said you were willing to propose that. I'm happy to second that as an amendment. Councillor.
I think I'll speak on behalf of Councillor Butt-Philip. We're happy to accept that as part of our motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So we encompass that as an amendment to the original. Right, okay. Sorry. Jason, sorry.
My apologies, Chair. My question, whilst I would love to get it to you by 5 o'clock today, I'm just thinking logistically, Councillor Whale is sat with you, and I guess your meeting will go on for a little bit longer, yeah, and with his travelling time back to Chard, and then before we can even speak, we will probably be heading for 5 o'clock. Would it be acceptable to have something from us by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, so it's ready for officers when they start in the morning?
Because it is by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, that's absolutely fine. Okay, members, we have an amendment which has been proposed by Councillor Curley, seconded by Councillor Pugsley, that we delegate authority to Alan Jones to bring forward this letter with the various different comments. Members have some concerns about the council's submission. Members have to and we absolutely need to be absolutely safe on this. It has to be by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Officers have got a huge amount of work on various different work streams. So please do not send it in at 11:30 tomorrow morning, at 8 o'clock. But if you can get it in tonight, great. But we've listened to what members of Chard have said, so we're given special dispensation there. By 8 o'clock tomorrow morning is the absolute limit. Okay. So the committee is recommended to consider this and finalise the report for submission to Somerset Council's Phase 2 response to the Local Government's Commission, Boundary Commission for England, with the rider that we are giving delegated authority to Alan Jones to work with local members and prepare a side letter with some comments from 1 or 2 members, but a few members regarding concerns they have and comments regarding divisional arrangements for their areas. As proposed by Councillor Pugsley, seconded by Councillor Butt-Philip. All those in favour? Dave.
And I'm very much
Well, it's
wishing.
usually quiet in this debate.
Well, I wasn't. I didn't think I was going to say anything, but and I'm just wishing to make sure we get it right. I'm very happy to support. We've amended some of the names. Should that be mentioned in the resolution?
All those in favour? And against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Thank you very much, members, because this has been a rather laborious process, and thank you very much for the work for Stephen and officers. They've done an enormous amount of work on this, and I think we made the right decision. It would be an appalling situation if this council had not made an official representation to this process. Stephen.
I think, Mr. Chairman, we should go further and actually record a formal vote of thanks to the officers, in particular Officer Lake, for the work that they've had to undertake over the course now of many months. They have been absolutely stars. They've done some very superb work. They've had to grit their teeth and bear some changes that members have forced upon them, but they've done so with great good grace, and they have come up with something now that meets the new deadline, that as we've just been able to vote on it unanimously, and I think it is greatly to their credit. So I think we really ought to record that.
Yeah, I think I hear here. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. There wasn't a one item agenda. It was a special meeting. We know we are not meeting next Monday now because there was only one item on the agenda, I think. So thank you very much for your time and coming forward and attending this special meeting this afternoon. Thank you.